Hey guys, hope everybody out there is having a good day and really appreciate you guys taking a little time out of your day to watch the video. Got a good hardcore hogging tip for you guys today. I'm going to go over with you guys in detail about how to weight crankbaits or specifically cold water crankbaits to get them to suspend or sink and be more effective in the cold water environments. And I'm going to actually do two videos on this. I'm going to do one on crankbaits and I'm going to do one on jerkbaits too, because it's sort of a lost art. I mean, back 30 or 40 years ago, that was sort of a big deal, is weighting jerk baits and crankbaits and that type of stuff to suspend. But it seems like people have gotten away from that a little bit, and it's not quite as popular as it is. But I'm going to go over with you guys my two favorite cold water crankbaits and how I weight them, and give you a little, seminar on how I fish them and what I look for when the water's really cold. So anyway, let's get into this right off the bat. The two crankbaits that I'm going to talk about, these are my two favorite crankbaits. One is the Megabass Flap Slap. It's a flat-sided crankbait. Sort of looks like a threadfin shad. And the other one is the old Shad Rap. The Shad Rap is probably the most, famous cold water crankbait that there is. I mean, tight wobble. People have been catching fish on it for, 40 years in the wintertime. It's just a real standby staple in the winter. But I'm telling you guys right now, this Flap Slap is a freaking killer in cold water. So you definitely want to get you some of those. And all this stuff I'm talking about, the weights, the baits, you can get them at Bait Works here in Springfield, Missouri. I'll include the link in the description if you want to order them through there. It's a good way to help the channel out. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the strips and everything. There's two different types of strips. Storm makes these. You got the suspend strips, which are the strips like this. These peel right off of here, off the sides. So you just peel them off, and they got a sticky side on one side of them. It's real sticky there, like that. And then you got the suspend dots, which are the round ones, the sticky ones. Now, what makes me determine if I want to use the suspend strip or the suspend dot, a lot of it is how much surface I have on a lure to work with and how much weight. A suspend strip is going to weigh a little bit more than a suspend dot. So I just sort of mix it up between both of those. But I've already got one set up here. Here's the one that I put on the old, actually this bait here, I've had this one weighted for 15 years. I got the weight right along the belly there. And that's normally what you want to do, guys. You want to put it about halfway between, the two hooks, the back hook and the front hook, right in the center like that. And I'll show you here on the Flap Slap here with it. Same deal, I just put it usually, pretty much right behind the back hook on it. And you want to try to get it centered as much as you can, because if you don't get it centered, sometimes it throws the action of the bait off a little bit. So see, I've got it sticking right on there, and you just put it right against there. Nice and simple like that. Now, a couple other things I do with this to ensure this. A lot of times, if you're suspend strip guys, if you've had them for a while, say they've been in your box for 6 months or so, the adhesive on the back of them starts to deteriorate a little bit, and they're not as sticky as they were. So one of the things I do always as a precaution is when I put the suspend strip on, I'll take a little bit of super glue, and I'll just run a bead of super glue and then stick the first suspend strip on that super glue there. That way it never comes off. Now, what you can do on this is you can take and you can add as many suspend strip as you want to. Like, for example, depending upon the buoyancy of the bait you have, I may have to add 3 or 4 suspend strips right on top of the other. And when I do that, again, I super glue them on there, get them on there nice and straight. Sometimes I want the bait to suspend, sometimes I want it to sink a little bit. So you can adjust that perfectly. And another good thing about that is you can put, say, 3 suspend strips on it, and you can take, if it's sinking a little too fast or rising or whatever, you can adjust it by just taking a knife and cutting off a little piece of it with a knife on the side there. So you can really control it really good just by putting the exact right amount of lead on there. So the thing about that, the situations where you want a suspending crankbait is in cold water situations. Normally cold water and a little bit off-colored water. So in the wintertime, when the water temperatures are like in the mid-40s, that's sort of the time when I start looking to these crankbaits. Like right now, we're in the dead of winter. Normally the second, third week of January is the coldest water temperatures you're going to have all year long on your lake. So the time that I'm going to go to these crankbaits, the flap slap and the shad rap, is when I first start noticing those temperatures starting to rise a little bit. And normally you're going to start noticing that sometime right around the first part of February, depending upon the weather patterns you have. But say, for example, your water temperature bottoms out at 43 degrees, and it's been 43 degrees for several weeks. Once that water temperature starts rising 43, 45, 46, 47 degrees, that's when you need to pull these cold water crankbaits out, the flap slap and the shad rap. That's when they start getting on these things. And what I want to look for is when that water temperature first starts to rise, I'm getting back in the creek arms and I want to find a little bit off-colored water. Ideally, with both of these baits, I'm looking for water visibility in that 2 to 3 foot range. That seems to me to be the key water clarity for cold water crankbaits. I go by water clarity more than I do temperature. I'm not looking for the warmest water in the lake. I'm just looking for the weather patterns to have the lake temperatures beginning to rise, and I'm looking for that little bit more off-colored water. And normally what that's going to do, it's going to put those fish a little bit shallower. Both of these baits here, depending upon the size of the shad rap you run and well, there's only one size flap slap, but the size of the shad rap and the line size that you use on both of these is going to dictate how deep they run. Most of the time in the early winter, late winter, early spring, I'm using these things on 8-pound test line, 8-pound test Seaguar fluorocarbon, and on a long cast. And I fish both of them normally on a spinning rod. On a long cast, you're going to get the flap slap down probably close to 6 feet, and depending upon the size of the shad rap, you're looking anywhere between, say, 5 to 8 foot, depending upon the number, the size there. So you're looking for those bass to be sort of in that 4 to 6 foot range is a good depth when that water temperature starts rising up into the mid to upper 40s. And here's the reason why you want it suspended, because you make your cast out there with the long cast with the 8-pound line, crank it down to get it where it's the deepest. And once you get it down there where you think it's at the maximum depth, that's when you can really just slow crawl that crankbait in that cold water. And it's just, it's just moving real slow, just, along the bottom like that. And you can stop it, and you can either let it sink a little bit and just slowly start reeling it along the bottom, just a real slow crank like that. Sometimes also during the mid part of it, I'll reel it down to the deepest part and I'll just pull it like that, and you just got just a little wiggle like that. And that's what really gets those bigger pre-spawn females to hit this bait. These deals, when you're talking about suspended weighted crankbaits in the late winter, it's a quality fish deal. These are going to be the bigger females that move up into that 4 to 6 foot zone really before any other class of fish. So I'm expecting to catch good ones on this. When I'm using a weighted crankbait in the late winter, early spring, I'm expecting to catch, at least 3-pound average, maybe 3 to 5 pound average on the crankbaits. You're going to find the bigger females are going to move up first. So anyway, guys, just a real quick tip, get you the old school Storm suspend strips, get you some flap slaps, get you some shad wraps, put them on there, get out there and start cranking when that water temperature starts rising just a little bit, which is probably going to do so within the next 3 weeks or so. And I can promise you it'll get you some good bites this spring. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the tip. Much appreciated. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't, and we'll talk to y'all later.